Hello my dear gardeners! In this short 10-minute video I'm going to tell you how I care about my roses through the year, my schedule time, because there are times when you have to be there to protect your roses from diseases, to make sure that they bloom well, or protect them from frost and cold weather. And then you can travel for months like I had to travel, and roses are taking care of themselves. Look at this exuberance, ready to bloom. So let's talk about my rose care through the year. We had a little bit of rain break. Everything is nice and fresh from the rain. So what are two important things, two important times of the year? It's the beginning of spring, when roses are just starting to bloom, and then for colder climates, when we are putting our roses to bed. Why the spring? Why the beginning of spring? Because roses are actively growing. They need us to provide them with food, the fertilizer, because they're putting on this beautiful canopy, and then they're setting all the buds for beautiful growth. Oh, it's kind of wet here. And then when we put our roses to bed, especially for people who garden in colder climates, they need to make sure that their roses are not going to be dead through the winter. And now let's go through January to all the way to December, what I do in the garden. And of course, keep in mind that there are so many different microclimates. And I garden in zone 7A in coastal area here, northeast USA. And different parts of the country or the world can be so different. So this is just for your reference, and you can adjust the schedule to your needs of your garden. January. I love this month because this month is the most important for me in taking care after the harmful bugs in the garden. So what do? I wait for this very small but warm window when the temperature is around 40 degrees for a day or two, and I use that window in January or February to use horticultural oil or neem oil spray on my roses. I prefer horticultural oil. And now, because horticultural oil is so well made, they come, one bottle comes in two different recipes. So when you look at the labels, there would be two recipes, two mixing proportions of oil with water. One would be for dormant season and another would be for growing season. And the amount of oil for dormant season will be bigger. So when roses are all asleep, we don't see any leaves and only closed buds are there. Horticultural oil, the spraying of all the canes and area around the root system will kill all the scales and eggs and all the little parasites hiding there through the winter on the canes of our roses, waiting for warm weather to begin and roses starting to grow. So again, January I use horticultural oil, better horticultural oil than neem oil, and I spray all the canes to the point of dripping. This way, a lot of parasites are killed. And that is a big thing in January to do for me in my garden. Then comes the beginning of spring. Rose buds are swelling, they're not producing leaves yet, and that is the time to do the trimming and feeding for me. There were times when I was late, and I was doing the trimming when roses were already leafing out. And if you are in such a situation, it's always better to do the trimming than not, because you want to get rid of all the dead and diseased stems, not to let them go through the year and, spread the diseases around the garden. So the beginning of spring, usually it's somewhere the beginning of March. All the roses get beautiful trims, and there are plenty of videos on my YouTube channel how I do it. And then I fertilize them. What do I use? I use anything organic. I try to garden organically. And if it's rose food and it's done organically, it's good to go. I usually use Espoma or Job, whatever is available in the store. I fertilize according to the label. I like to read labels. And by the way, I just looked before the rain. There is a ladybug sitting right on top of the colony of soft-bodied insects, aphids, and she's going so one by one eating them all, just leaving skeletons behind. I like this. I like to see ladybugs in my garden. You see, I garden organically, and I think because I do it for many years, there is this symbiosis in my garden where good bugs and bad bugs coexist, and ladybug is eating aphids. I'm very happy about it because ladybugs have huge appetites and they can swallow a lot of colonies in several days. So, roses finished blooming, and that is the time to fertilize them again, because we want to have that continuation of blooms through the end of the summer. Also, this is the time when I do all the deadheading. Why do we deadhead? We don't want roses to start forming hips too early, because we want them to bloom. Last year there is a generous gardener at the back of my garden, and I didn't manage to fertilize it. I didn't manage to deadhead it, and squirrels got rid of all the hips in the fall, and my roses just put all the energy in forming hips, and it never rebloomed, although that generous gardener is considered reblooming variety. So deadheading is important for me in the middle of July somewhere. And then comes fall. September, I stop deadheading. I prepare my roses for the fall. And then when several first frosts, strong frosts, hit our area, it can be late for us. It can be October, November, at the beginning of November sometime. I start to prepare my roses for sleep. I make sure that I cover them with a light cover of cow manure or mulch. Of course, people who garden in colder areas, the preparation for winter would be more severe, stronger. For me, I garden in zone 7A. It is light. But very important to keep in mind here that it has to be done when frosts are coming into your area, not before. You don't want to speed that warm hills around the root system of the plant, because you don't want your rose to think, oh, it's getting cozy and warm, maybe I should start growing. No, your rose is supposed to go to sleep and stop growing. So this is the schedule which I do on my roses. Nothing super involved. I consider it basic. Of course, I invest heavily into the health of the soil, and I think that's why my roses are blooming so well. I'm voting for organic gardening. All right, so this is the schedule. Two most important times of the year: the beginning of spring and preparing your roses for winter, for them to survive winter. And then the best thing to do for bug control for me is January, that warm window of 40 degrees. It can be February. And they say that the best time would be to do it twice. I only do it once. I can get to my garden only once in January or February. And looks like my roses are doing fine. My dear gardeners, please do subscribe if you like my adventures in the garden. And I will see you next time. Happy gardening!